always be busy. Be busy with doing the right thing and do it good while you're at it.
Yeah, you get that I am involved as a student, and I get sometimes overly too involved.
Do not be penny wise and pound foolish. Mentor doesn't always have to know that you're mentor. Really want to say to people who are a bit shy and you don't know how to pursue this thing called mentoring, start from a distance, start with a peer.
Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You're sitting with Robbie, but today, as you can see, we're not sitting alone. I am with the lovely Evodia, whom we will introduce shortly. But today's video, as you can see by the title of the video, it's all about centered around mentorship and the role that that has played within my own career, and what best way to do it but with Evodia. But before we do formal introductions, Evodia, we just want to do like light questions in
Okay.
terms of to get to know you a bit better outside of the context of the video. So we want to get to know, Evodia, what is your favorite ice cream?
Rum and raisin.
Okay, cool, interesting choice. And what is your favorite holiday destination?
I must say it is typical Cape Town.
Who doesn't like Cape Town?
I love Cape Town.
Yeah.
I've done there's a place in KZN called why is it blanking all of a sudden?
Drakensberg.
No.
Oh no.
I went there with my husband on our 5th year wedding anniversary.
Um.
Balgowan.
Yeah.
Love Balgowan. I think so far it still tops the charts for me.
Okay, cool. So you are more of an ocean person. You like the
Nature,
open?
outdoor. That's
Okay.
nature.
Bit.
Yeah.
Mm,
Love nature.
Okay, cool. And what motivates you and what drives you? A bit more of a serious question.
I'm a passion person. I'm like very big on passion. And I'm very big on changing things, transformation. So if there's something that has the power to transform, it drives me. It just pulls me. Even if I've told myself I'm gonna mind my own, it just has a way of like pulling me in. So those are the type of things that drives me. Yeah, big change, small change, but anything that has changed, transformation. And I think I'm a sucker for justice. Where there's justice, you'll definitely find me there.
No, I can definitely attest to that. I can definitely attest to that. But to close off, what would be the one, if we have like a one-liner that would just best describe Evodia? What would that be?
All in.
There is a story in terms of how we actually met, and I'll allow her to actually unpack that. But to sum it up, how I met Evodia, she was my residence head at the University of the Free State, where I went to go study. And later on, then I started working with her, working for her, under her, at the Center of Teaching and Learning at the University of the Free State as well. And yeah, and from there on, I think that's where the mentorship started. I think it started right at Res, at Conlaris,
Yeah.
which is my residence. But there's a funny story in terms of how we actually met. And yeah, Evodia, how did it transpire from your light? Maybe share it from your perspective, and then I can add where I need to add. Then maybe I can add there.
Okay, I think it's more like how you became my type of person. So when I took on the role of residence head at Conlaris Residence, University of the Free State, it was an exciting one because I just moved from becoming a residence head in a day residence for commuter students and transitioned to on-campus, and also the biggest residence, which is a co-ed, 252 students. So quite a challenge, but look, I'm always up for a challenge. I remember particularly we had quite a lot of issues around leadership, infrastructure. So there was a big challenge around hot water, lack of hot water in the residence. And I arrived around April, so cold season in Bloemfontein. And in the heart of winter, the residents didn't have water.
Yeah.
So it was quite a political issue with the students, between the students and the management of the residences. I remember one evening, so I dreaded house meetings.
Yeah.
I really dreaded house meetings because they got very heated. Now, the one house meeting where students were, asking about hot water, what have you done as the residence head? And me sort of saying, guys, there's been a lot of talks. And I mean, I remember even giving them like heads up on how to strategically play the game, to say, look, don't go there fighting, breaking down doors because they're not going to listen. One of the things I advise the students to do is, listen, go form a group, go read up on the standards, living standards of universities and residences, and go to business when you get there. Highlight your issues, highlight the change you want to see. Guys, after pouring my heart out and thinking I'm for the students and I'm one of them, Bongi, I mean, he was short. He's like this short guy, stands up from this crowd and says, yeah, ma'am, thank you very much, but as the students, we'd like you to leave. I'm thinking, what? Wait, what? You want me to leave? And without flinching, he says, yes, we want you to leave.
We don't trust you.
And I'm
So
like,
she asked, she stands there, she's like,
I was shocked. I was thoroughly shocked. And I mean, I asked, I'm like, you want me to leave the meeting? I think I was confused and shocked. And I'm thinking, okay, why do you want me to leave the meeting? And I started getting a bit emotional. And Bongi says, because we don't trust you. Now, for those of you who know me, trust is a big value for me. So like trust is a big one. And guys, I didn't have a comeback. I remember I was wearing a white shirt with black pants and high heels. I said, fine. Walked out. Guys, I was so hurt. I remember calling my husband. I've never really cried. I don't cry much about work situations. But I cried that night. Called my husband who was in the Lesotho. I'm like, I quit. They don't trust me after everything I've done. So yeah, it was quite emotional. And I think then Bongi wrote me like a very long paragraph about, how sorry he is and sort of trying to explain himself. And yeah, I think that was quite, it's because I'm a second chance person also. I figured, someone who didn't even take 24 hours to say, listen, I'm sorry for what I did. This is not what I meant, but this is what I meant. I think that he sort of crept into my heart a bit by doing that. But I could also see how strategic he was at that point, and that he needed, it was part of his strategy to gain, to gain the students' confidence, but also without jeopardizing things. So yeah, I was quite proud of him, and I thought, okay. Yeah, that guy, I want to work with that, because also I think he was quite action driven and very strategic, and I think from there we became. I eyed Bongi from there. He was under my radar from that day onwards.
Sure, and that's literally it. Like it was I think it was one of the toughest moments that I had to like do, because it's not me as well. I'm not one to like literally I'm not confrontational. I don't like confrontation, but also in a public setting with like 250 eyes that were there, but also just remembering the goal, what we needed to achieve, and how they viewed Evodia as well. Like people are not really fond of residence heads. You probably guys know as well. But like literally we had to do what needed to be done, and there was only one person who was willing to do it. That happened to be me. Everyone else just shied away and didn't want to do it. But that's how, like literally, I think the relationship between me and Evodia really started. I think before the event it was there, but not really there. But how we came to get to know each other as leaders in the residence, because I didn't have a leadership role in the residence at that time. But because of the sort of position I assumed at the time as part of one of the committees, and her being residence head as well, that's how we actually got to know each other, and I got to know Evodia and Bongi, and then the rest is history, and we'll get to unpack some of it in today's conversation. So we know, Evodia, you have a number of programs. Well, you are a residence head, and at the same time you also have a position at the University of the Free State at CTL, where you are the head of SSS, or student.
It's now called Student Learning and Employability.
There we go. And these programs cover a lot of things around mentorship, or an element to that, career. We know of Secure the Grads. Those who know, they know. If you don't know, then it's time that you know. Go check it out. But can you please give us a bit of a background in terms of what does this mean for someone who's watching on there? And how you got involved within these programs as well.
All right. So as Bonki highlighted, I head up in my primary role as a focus area head, and that's someone's like a head of a division. I head up the Academic Student Tutorial and Excellence Program, also known as A-STEP. It's actually the largest tutorial program at the University of the Free State. We employ about 400 plus tutors annually across 3 campuses. So quite a big program. And we annually impact over 13,000 students. I remember pre-COVID, we'd hit close to 18,000 students that we're impacting in that academic year. The second leg to my job in my primary role is also senior student experience, where, as you said, Wangi, #Secure the Grad, one of my favorite programs. And I mean, a couple of stuff like LinkedIn Learning to help students get work ready, and also to build some skill, as well as Diamond League. That's also an employability enhancement program. Now, in these programs, it's peer-led. So a lot of peer-led programs where senior students lead junior students, either senior undergrad or postgraduate students. In the tutorial space, it's mostly centered around helping students flourish academically or improve academically. One of the things I wrote up actually in my master's on is, outside of just helping students level up academically, tutorials have been a space where students get to learn skills that help them advance, not just in society but also in employability. So things like communication, being able to communicate verbally, written, to be able to do research, to be able to appreciate diversity, but also to be able to lead others, because I mean, to lead your peers is a very tricky thing. And to lead sometimes a group of about 50 students, 60 students, that's quite a thing for especially an undergraduate student. In our senior experience around your Diamond League, it's where postgraduate students are helping to mentor and coach other students around their CVs, how a good CV needs to look like, how to prepare for an interview, but also how to learn to network. And I think the biggest element for me in these programs is you really get to, one, unpack talent. I also started, I mean, just to think about my own journey, I started off as a tutor in the tutorial program, and I was just shooting my shot because my friends were tutors. But like I said, I'm an all-in person. When I got in, like, I went all in. I went fully in. I became a research assistant where I developed systems like tracking attendance, payments for the tutors, evaluating the program. And I mean, I was still a student back then. So I sort of looked at, okay, because it was a big program, how can we make it more effective? So I think programs like this really, by virtue of employing students, they tap into the students' talents as a way, one, to develop the student, but also to grow the programs. I think as people, we tend to be more responsive to peers. Peers have a very big influence. I don't know, some of you remember when your parents said, peer pressure. That peer pressure works. That relationship between a peer, it is very influential. And I think we've really tapped into that component of influence around these programs. And I think it's by design that it's able to produce the type of things it produces. So I think that's one aspect of it, the talent development, but it also helps students to get employed. For many of the students, this is their first job. So in our tutorial program, I could treat people like employees. I mean, you get an employee number, you get a work email. There's a lot of admin involved. There's a portfolio, there are awards. There's like a performance management going on. So it's a real job. And I think for many of our students, especially at the university, they come from disadvantaged backgrounds. They don't really have a lot of social capital. Their parents are not in the rich circles. So in terms of network and social capital, they're learning it right here because they really get exposed to a lot. So I think for me, there is that power in shaping the youth, shaping talent, but also helping the institution get to its goal, which is getting students to graduate.
100%.
Yeah. So touching on mentorship, I think these activities and these programs that we lead that have a great impact. I mean, it impacts thousands of students, not just in graduating, but in getting a foot in the door and becoming successful in starting off their careers and not starting off their careers shaky. So there's a lot of confidence that I think students build that definitely I've built in my career. So there's a question you asked, Bongi, around the student leadership element in it. I think if I tapped into my story, I mean, when I started, I was a mere 18, 19-year-old at the university, and someone gave me a shot as a tutor. I remember my first interview with the senior director of what was then student development and success, now called CTL. Professor Stradom interviewed me. Imagine, I'm there in my wet tackies, and I'm interviewing with the head of the tutorial program then and the director of the center. And I mean, I cracked a joke that was really bad that could have ended my career. But I mean, it's in that interview, 15-minute interview, where I got my shot. And I mean, when opportunities came, they said, look, you go head up or help to run the program in natural sciences. I worked in the dean's office. So for me, the fact that they saw this 19-year-old that spoke a lot, that shot her shot, and they said you can do more in the program, to actually leading the program by age 21, 22. I think that was a big deal for me. And it just showed me that students are not empty. It's not these people that need a lot of development. No, they actually have something to give. They're very talented. And when given the space, when given the development, when given the coaching and the mentorship and the resources, I think they thrive. They really thrive. And for me, thinking back about my career, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about student leadership and advocating for students is because someone took a shot on me. Even before I worked with the university, I used to volunteer a lot back in Matric. There's a company back then that was called Exploits Enterprises. The owner of the company gave me a shot in saying, look, you like accounting, you like numbers, come do our books. They even took me to one of their clients to present an accounting system for youth development businesses that were championed by one of the municipalities in the Free State. So for me, that meant that, okay, I don't have a real job. I don't have a formal qualification, yet I've been trusted with so much and I can make a difference. So I think for me, it gave me the confidence and it gave me a roadmap of if you, with the little bit of knowledge you have and the little bit of charisma and passion, you can do so much and people actually trust in you, how about pay it forward? So one of the reasons I love student leadership and I believe in it is, one, paying it forward, but two, I've come to see that we have a lot to offer as young people, and given the space, there's a lot of impact that we can make.
Yo, that was a lot take in, Bodhi. But like, there's so many things that you mentioned on there that I just want to touch on.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think you're talking about how the peer to peer opportunities that are available at the university with the tutorial system that you give and various opportunities that are there.
Yeah.
I just want from your perspective, because I know from my story there was definitely an impact,
Yeah.
but from someone who's watching from the outside, I want you to probably just give everyone or someone who's watching the differentiating between someone who has had the opportunity to work on campus versus someone who has not had an opportunity to work on campus, and from a preparedness perspective.
Yeah.
What would you say? I know I'm deviating from the conversation a bit, but what would you say the differences are and the role that it plays? But also, you mentioned, for example,
Yeah.
that they saw you, for example, when you said you're good at maths, you're good at accounting, therefore come in and work in this place.
Yeah.
What's the importance of? I think it emphasizes the importance of being ready.
Yeah.
Opportunity meets preparedness.
Yeah.
I don't know the saying, but then I think
It does.
it means that.
It does.
But like, what's the importance of that? Because it's in the same way that when someone spotted you, it's the same way that you spotted me.
Yeah.
Where I was just doing my role as a RC member, doing best as I could.
Yeah.
I live up at principles of excellence in doing what you can do
Yeah.
excellently so. But what, from your perspective, what's the importance of that? Is that really important? Must someone watch you first, do something, then they recognize you, or must you always be on top of your game all the time because you never know what opportunity might come?
Yeah. I want to sort of start it at the back. So always be busy. Be busy with doing the right thing and do it good while you're at it.
Yeah.
So I think that's one principle. When you spoke about, someone said, how they spotted I know maths and accounting. I was there to clean the offices, just by the way.
Sure.
I was helping to clean the office, putting it together. I would make tea. I would help when they have events. So I think the biggest thing and something I'm seeing in this generation is get off your high horse, stop being important. Look at degree out your statistics. Relax. You're not important yet. Serve. So I think the biggest thing is just serve, man. If there's a need, pick up your hand, do it. If no one is asking but you see something needs to be done, get busy, do it. So I think that is how opportunities come up. And I'm thinking about how I saw you. I mean, I didn't even know your story, but I later learned that you were always a guy who was busy in res. You were busy there. You were busy there. I mean, you were sitting in the back of the room.
Yeah.
But opportunity came and you led. You were not even the main leader, but you led. And I think that for me was like, okay, this guy is a person of action. So I think while working as a student, maybe let me finish this thought. So always be busy with purpose. Always be busy with something, even if you haven't figured out your purpose yet. If you are a photographer, be busy with photography. If they need someone to take photos, if they didn't ask but you see an opportunity, go. Say, guys, I've got a camera. I want to practice my skill. I want to sharpen. Can I come take photos for your event? That's really how people tend to spot people. So get busy, put up your hand, be faithful in that. I think there's a big thing about being faithful. So even when people are not looking, be there. Even if they're not expecting you on Monday, be there. I think that is something I learned in my journey, to just show up. Show up, get busy, do good, go home. And I think that's something about you. You are just that guy that always showed up. I'm thinking about a particular incident. I think we had to do elections very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think you helped me with putting together a program, getting people to organize your committee, to organize the gazelle. Even with counting the votes, you were there helping to count the votes. I didn't know the space very well. you were somehow always in the background doing something. So I think one of the principles out of there is get your hands dirty, do the job, solve problems, solve the right problems. Solve the right problems. Don't just say there's a problem, solve the right problem. So I think that is something that always stands out. Now, coming to the question about the difference between students who have worked while they're at varsity, and a student that focused on just their books. You definitely see it because we interview a lot of students. For about 2-3 internship positions, we get about 700-800 applications.
Sure.
And I don't use AI yet. When I sift through applications, I literally have to open each and every application and look through it. It takes long, but I prefer to do it because I believe that destiny is such a big thing, and I don't want to be responsible for missing someone whose chance it was supposed to be at that point. So I'll go through every CV. But the thing that you'll always see once you've now shortlisted and you interview, there's candidates that are like straight A's and they're good, and I always want to give them a chance in terms of interviewing, because I believe they were also very purpose driven. They were focused, and you want to reward focus and excellence. But there's students that are not necessarily straight A students, but you see they were a mentor, they were RC, residence committee member, they volunteered for the food drive, they volunteered in their church. So those are students that I'll typically shortlist. And in the interviews, you hear the student that has volunteered and they've worked, they're somehow able to think out of the box. They're able to think critically. They're also able to integrate what they've learned in class or in their discipline into the questions that you're asking them. And that is that's good, especially for a 19, 20-year-old or 21 sometimes, for them to already think as if they're in the workplace, because we don't ask them baby questions in the interviews. We ask them like real questions like the STAR method and so on. And we ask them scenario-based questions that they have to think about past experiences, think about the role, and then answer the question. And you see the A student that has no experience, it's sort of, they kind of sometimes give you a black and white answer. So it's either black or it's white. So they give you a clean cut clinical textbook answer, and you sometimes struggle to see their personality because they've rehearsed, they've practiced, which is good, and what you want to see, but you want to see the personality shine through. You want to see what will this person look like in the role. But also, secondly, what I think is the difference between these two candidates is the student that has experience in student leadership and volunteering, and they've gotten busy outside of just the academics, is there's a level of self-actualization that has happened. They kind of know what they're good at and what they maybe not good at, although it's at a foundational level, but it's there. Versus sometimes the student that's a straight A student, you can see they're still in discovery mode and the early stage of discovery mode. And sometimes it's an internship, it's a 1-year program, and you don't always have the time to spend with someone who still needs to discover, are they here, are they there, are they going forward, are they going backwards, and so on. And because also our space is a very dynamic space, there's not always these SOPs waiting and manuals waiting. You have to figure things out, you have to get innovative, you have to apply yourself. And I've seen those who tend to thrive in the role are the students that have really gotten busy while they were studying.
Yeah, but sometimes, Vodi, you get that I am involved as a student, and I get sometimes overly too involved. You get that, sometimes, I'll make an example with me today. I figured out how I can get coins out of the university. I knew how to make money. I was never broke at the university because I knew where to go to, work and where to get money, etc. Even outside of the university, I was even promoting, doing promotion jobs, and etc. and I got money from those. But not that, yeah, money does play a factor because no one wants to be a broke student at the end of the day. And I never wanted to be broke. But also you can get so much involved, especially if a student, as a student that
Yeah.
gets that lives in a residence, you get so involved. There's this event happening, there's this committee, there is so much that's happening, and everyone tells you, oh no, it's gonna look good on your CV, so
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah.
And because we are a personality people, we're
Yeah.
not gonna, you get students that will actually just sign up and then they're like, yes, I was involved. And then you get us people, a personality people, who I can't just sign up for something and then just leave it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to, when I sign up for something, I show up, all of me, I
Yeah.
come in or not. It's
Yeah.
either I'm in or not. And that sometimes it can lead to failure or neglect in terms of academics, which is the main reason why you're actually at the university. And I found myself, for example, in first year where I failed like a module, not because I didn't know the content of the module, but like I failed because I was overly involved with
Yeah.
multiple things, which led to an extra year
Yeah.
in terms of being me being here at the university. But I just want to get from your perspective, how can students navigate that to know, okay, am I too involved? Am I not? Is there a line with that's there to say this is where you can end it, or and get involved in two things maybe in a year, or yeah, I just want to get from your perspective how, yeah.
Sure. This, I think, this is a very important thing. In my experience, especially in the residences, I tend to see this issue of over involvement at the cost of the primary goal, which is securing your grad. I've seen this way too much. It has happened to me too. I took an extra year in my 4-year qualification because of that. At some stage I was doing 6 jobs as a student, especially a student that was from a very poor background. Mom and dad is not there to pay the fees, so you wanna stay in school. But you also, the type of personality that you wanna do much. You just can't sit still, and you're talented. I think, and in my experience, getting a plan is so important. And many students that are from backgrounds where there's not much of a routine and scheduling, and we plan life and so on, which is many of the, if you're from poor families, I don't think there's a lot of us that talk about this is how you plan for a goal, this is how you meet a goal, this is how you evaluate whether you're still on track. So many of us don't have those lessons in us. And also at school, I think the school system also created that structure for you. I mean, you had a timetable, you had the teacher tell you when you write test, when you play netball, when it's entrepreneur. So it was all scheduled for you, and all of a sudden that structure is taken away, and you have to enforce. One, you have to design that structure for yourself, you have to enforce it for yourself. And I think that's a tricky thing for many students who don't naturally have that in place. Um, and one of the things that have helped, and I've seen, and I encourage my students, especially my student leaders, the students in my residences, the students that work with us, I encourage them, if you're at a university and there's an advisor or a counselor, go see the counselor, go see the advisor, and talk about, these are the 10 things that I'm doing. These are these are the achievements I want to get to academically. How do I get to everything? Because I think these are trained professionals that can help you structure and also help you become realistic around, this is the season that you can do this. This is the season you can do that. This role can align and help you get to this particular goal. I think that's very important. But secondly, and I think this is where mentorship plays such a big role. Having a mentor, part of the mentoring relationship actually talks about the mentee comes with their goals to say, look, this is what I want to achieve. Or the mentor helps the student or the mentee, establish goals. Where do you want to go to long term? Where do you want to get to short term? Let's help you put together a roadmap. How are you going to get there? Mini milestones, long term milestones, and then connects the mentee to resources and helps them get there. In my relationship, particularly, I remember I was that lost student, promoter for a beverage, alcohol beverage on campus. I did modeling. I played sports. I was a tutor. I was very involved at church. And I was not dating, at least. But and I was doing school. So I had all these things going for me. And I remember the year when I hit rock bottom, guys. Like I failed. Imagine the stats tutor getting 21% for her stats. At some stage, I think I got like 12% for maths. And that was not me. I was a good student. I didn't really fail much. So that year I failed. That semester I failed dismally. And similar to you, it cost me a whole year. I remember Professor Stradom, who's my mentor. He's a psychologist, a trained psychologist, took me to the student counseling division where I met with a psychologist. They did all the aptitude tests. Funny enough, it was like the opposite. They said I'm good with things like literature and I should be in the humanities stream. But when they looked at my marks, I was excelling more at the quantitative things. But it's then where I developed a structure. So I really want to encourage, one, draw a goal. Where do you want to get to? Speak to an advisor, let them help you. But guys, I'm not really a big timetable person, so I'm not going to say, hey, timetable, but I want to say timetable. So what I've come to learn also in my career now, because I'm not the most organized person. I'm a free flow, let's go with the thing. Hey, let's run. We have 24 hours. We can get this done in 18 hours out of 24, and we're going to push. So I'm by nature that type of person. But I've seen, in order for me, one, to make impact, to get results, to drive excellence, but also not to burn out, is to create a timeline and a schedule. And to say, okay, in this season, I cannot do modeling. In this season, and it's getting tougher. So I'm going to have to cut this. I can't cut tutoring because I need the money. So I'm going to focus on tutoring and I'm going to do it well so that I can also do my books. So I think it's about seeing what works for that season. One advice that my mentor gave me, I remember, crying, especially in the season when I failed. Prof asked me, Evodia, and I was like, this guy doesn't understand. Like he had his parents pay varsity for him. Now I've got no one paying varsity for me. If I don't get money, I'm out. The university is going to kick me out. And I remember me talking to him about the reason I do all these things, not because I'm excited about being everywhere and I want to be known. It's an issue of survival. And Prof said to me, Evodia, the saying of do not be penny wise and pound foolish. And I remember thinking, because I'm a smart girl, I was like, I've never heard it, but sure, it makes sense. So don't be wise for pennies, but being a foolish for the pound. So don't be so consumed with making the money now and losing out on the potential to make the pounds later. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice and be a bit of the poor student and just get enough for taxi and paying off the fees and leave the luxuries. Because, if I get my degree with good grades, I can get into a high income job or high income role because my marks are good and I can compete against the best of the best. So I think it's also about looking at what are you going to have to sacrifice in that moment for the bigger goal. So goal setting, in essence, goal setting, very important. Getting a plan, because it doesn't help you have the goals, but you don't have a plan. And two, having accountability partners. I think for me, it was also being scared of losing my job at the varsity. That gave me a wake-up call, because I was like, if I fail, they can't employ me. So then deciding that, okay, I had to be open with Prof and be honest about where I am. And he, as my mentor, also became my accountability person. So it's very important also that you have someone like a mentor, like an advisor, academic advisor, a student counselor, the buddy, the tutor, the mentor in race, the RC in race, whoever you can, who you know can hold you accountable and can you can stay accountable to that person. I think that's a very good technique, and I it's worked for me, and I've seen it work for some of the students that I've personally mentored.
Sure. And I think just tapping on what you said as well, I think, as a student, taking myself back when I was a student, the moment I hear, oh no, go look for a mentor, I think that closes, it goes blank. It's like when they say, go do networking, go network. And then you're like, okay, networking, what do you mean? And they're like, go connect with people on LinkedIn. Okay, and then what? No one really unpacks what that actually entails. But as you grow and you learn, you actually realize that, like, no, actually what I had with Evodia was actually like a mentorship. Um but I just want to ask, for students that are typically not like out there, and I think partly that question has actually been answered in the conversation, to say, by your virtue of being involved, you actually get to meet the right people for you.
Yes.
And the people, because like how you also met Prof.
Yes.
Etc. How I met Evodia, etc. It's by the virtue of being involved. But for a student that maybe is not that involved, or anyone actually, either they're students or not, even working professionals, I think everyone struggles with the concept of networking,
And mentor.
mentorship. And I know you are an Alan Gray Foundation mentor as well. So maybe from your insights, from that experience as well, to say, how does mentorship actually work, and how does one position themselves to find a mentor, because not everyone is available to mentor, right? So in instances where I don't find someone who is available to mentor or give me mentorship, what ways can I go about then receiving, getting a mentor, or what avenues do you think?
I think firstly, the mentorship is not always formal. So there's the formal, where you apply for a mentor, you go formally ask someone to be your mentor, and you go through the formal stages of mentorship, the formal meetings, and so on. And there's the informal mentorship, which I think is something that often happens organically, but also with a bit of intention. So I want to say, so there's those two concepts. In the informal setting of the mentorship relationship, mentorship doesn't always have to be someone that is far, like it's the CEO, it's the HOD, it's the director. It doesn't always have to be that. Mentorship can be someone, let's say you're in a residence and you're a student, a senior who you really see and you're like, yo, yeah, that guy knows his business and there's something he's doing right, and I want to do that. So through that relationship, studying with that person, looking at what they're doing, asking them questions, hanging out with them, serving them even as a peer. They might be a year older than you, and they might be the same age as you, but there's something that they already doing well at, and you haven't reached there. That's a form of mentorship. So I really want to encourage that. Look in your circle, look in class. If you're an early career person, look at someone in the firm where you're working. Who's that person that really does their job excellently, and you wanna you wanna do something very similar. Go ask them, can I help you with something? I see you involved in this project, this is what I can do. And we spoke about it earlier as well. So that is also a way of starting the mentorship relationship. In building that connection, it tends to later on develop into the formal type of mentorship, and that's how many of my mentorship relationships, where I'm the mentee, that's often how it has developed. And I think there's another part. A mentor doesn't always have to know that you're mentor. And that's the informal part. So there are people that, through LinkedIn, through the books that I read, through programs that I watch, I follow in my faith, for instance. I follow them in their ministry, in their churches, how they do leadership, because I'm drawn to leadership and I'm drawn to strong and transformative leadership. So I'll typically look at people that I feel, ooh, I resonate with that person. And from a distance, I follow them as a mentee.
Sure.
So I subscribe to their things. Yeah, Siri. So I will follow them. So it doesn't always have to be, Bongi knows they my mentor or they my, yeah. So it can be really from a distance. I'm thinking I'm thinking about who comes to mind at the top of my head. If you think Oprah, for instance, there's, for someone who speaks, let me think about someone South African, Leanne Manas from
Yes.
From SABC2 Morning Live. In terms of hosting, moderating conversations, presenting, Leanne is one of the people that I identify as a mentor. I mean, I'm not very big into the influencers yet. So I look at people like Leanne and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to look at Leanne. I'm going to study her career. I'm going to watch her. I'm going to take advice as she gives, so, and that's a form of mentorship that I've taken on.
Sure.
And I mean, even in the residences or even at church, there are people that I'll hear later. They say, yo, I see you as a role model. I see you as a mentor and I've watched you. And I think, whoa, okay. Like I was just going about doing my business. So I really want to say to people who are a bit shy and you don't know how to pursue this thing called mentoring, start from a distance, start with a peer, start with someone that it's easy to talk to. Or shoot your shot, man. And just shoot your shot. And then the formal mentorship, there's also the formal one where you do ask someone. Or there's a lot of mentorship. I
Programs.
mean, Yolanda, is it Yolanda from, what's Yolanda's surname? She is the CEO of Microsoft. Yeah, so they're running the mentorship boardroom with Prof. Bonang, Mohale, and them. So they're on the mentor. I mean, they're always opening up applications. Sure. So if you want to get involved in formal mentorship, do that. Alan Gray Orbis Foundation, for instance, where I'm involved in as a mentor. I mean, they've got for the students that they fund and some of the employees. I signed up as a mentor. So for those of you who say, I want to mentor someone, I really want to encourage, sign up. If you're on LinkedIn, sign up, say, hey, I have space to mentor 3 people in this particular area, and sign up as a mentor. So the formal one, approach someone. I mean, if I look at my mentors, Bongi, I have had formal male mentors, sometimes formal, few female, mostly informal female. And as I became in my 30s and becoming a mom and growing in my career, I decided I want to be mentored intentionally and formally by a Black female that has a family, that thinks very high, that integrates her faith in everything that they do. That's also like a leader of industry. And there's someone that I identified through a friend. And we worked with one of the CEOs. And I remember last year I was so scared. Like I called her and I was like, hey, when I'm in Johannesburg, can we set up a meeting? Because I was planning on proposing formally, and then obviously it didn't work out. So one of my to-do lists for 2025 is formally meeting up. And I decided I'm not going to wait to formally meet up. I'm actually just going to write to her because she checks on me now and then. And I thought, hey, that's someone who's open. I'm going to formally propose a mentorship relationship. So I think in summarizing it, one, it doesn't always have to be vertical mentorship. It can also be horizontal with a peer, and it can be informal. It can be from a distance, and it can be there's the formal one where someone knows they're your mentor, and you take the actual mentoring relationship as it unfolds.
Sure. Thanks, Evodia, for sharing that. I think so many insights in terms of how to go about mentorship. that that are there. And I know you have a book here.
Oh yeah.
That you wanted to talk to. So about mentoring, the mentoring roadmap, the ultimate guide for mentors and mentees.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch a bit more in terms of what that is about? And yeah.
So this is actually a gift that I got from Ellen Grover's Foundation.
Sure.
Last year, to start off the year with my new mentee. I haven't finished it yet, but it's one of my books I need to finish before end of 2024. But there's a few things I got from it. It's got very nice templates. It really introduces you to what mentorship is, what it's not, gives you good examples, and how to have conversations, what are the benefits to organizations, and so on. So one of the things, so it's a guide. It's actually a guide for a mentor and a mentee. So I'd really want to advise, if you want to invest into mentorship, really get this book. It's very, very good. One of the things that they highlighted was also some of the mentor-mentee relationships of very big people that I didn't know of. If you think about President Barack Obama, that Michelle Robinson, aka Michelle Obama, is actually Barack Obama's mentor. They actually met at a law firm as associates, and Obama was assigned to Michelle. And that is how the mentor-mentee relationship started. And alas, he was the first Black president of United States of America. If you think about Oprah and they talk about Oprah and Maya Angelou. They also talk about Ray Charles, the musician, and Quincy Jones, Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs. And they talk about these relationships. And some of them I was like, okay. And I mean, if you see the person, you can see how they turned out. And they also talk about the one thing that very early in the book they highlight is sponsorship mentoring. And on LinkedIn, those of you on LinkedIn, you would have seen the word sponsorship a lot versus mentoring. I think they are intertwined. For me, that's a big thing. And if I think about the mentoring relationships that I've had, whether mentor-mentee, and where I'm the mentor and when I'm the mentee, this has been a very big part of my mentorship journey. And what it talks about is the mentor not just being there for giving advice, guiding, but where the mentor actually is actively involved in the development of the mentee, opening doors for the mentee, connecting the mentee with their networks, with their resources, and not just saying, okay, so here are your goals. What do you think? Okay, Bongi, show me the homework I gave you, and I truly believe in that. I remember when you moved to Cape Town, I called up my network in Cape Town. We were researching one of the firms that you were going to go work for. And I called up people in my network that were in the finance industry to say, hey, do you know about this firm? What's the work culture like? Bongi's coming to Cape Town. Can you take him around? Can you open up your networks? So that's a component, a very big part of sponsorship mentoring. And I'm a big believer in that. I think it's not just enough to help someone with a roadmap and to say you are wrong here, you are right there. What do it's not just enough to be a voice. If you have resources, open up those resources. Let the mentee benefit. Let them be richer and more progressive as a result of your mentorship. So I'm thinking about my mentor, Professor Stradom, for one. I mean, he's introduced me to big people internationally, philanthropies. When he talks about me as if I'm this big deal. And that's how I talk about my mentees. Like I'm thinking about, everybody knows Bongi. If you're in my life, you know about Bongi, and you know that he's a rock star. If someone is looking for someone who knows how to do quants, someone who knows how to do project management, and Bongi is one of the first names that come up. So I'm a very big believer, and I think if you are listening and you are a mentor and you're thinking also how do you want to navigate or you want to give back, mentoring is a very big. As a mentor, you serve your mentee.
Yeah.
You serve them.
Yeah.
It's not just the mentee serving you. You serve your mentee.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mentorship I truly believe in.
Sure.
I believe the mentee also, I mean, serves the mentor and so on. But I believe because I have a lot to give in this relationship. You know, I really open up my resources. I'm thinking about Ndokozo, who's one of my mentees as well. You know, I made sure, I mean, she was on Secure the Grad. She spoke about her journey. There's a couple of people that are connected to her. She pitched, she did her first entrepreneurship pitch because, I mean, she said, this is what I want to do. I want to start my own business. I called up a friend of mine who runs startups and I said, listen, here's my mentee. She needs this. In less than a week, she was already signed up for an entrepreneurship competition to pitch.
That's huge.
So I think as a mentor, that let your mentee benefit, man. Let them be better off. Yeah.
No, that's so important, bro. It's like, yo, that's a lot. But it speaks to what you were speaking to earlier on in terms of who you are as a person as well, as a mentor. You know, like that self-actualization, that self-awareness as what type of mentor do you want to be?
Yeah.
And it will speak to who you are as a person. You spoke that you are like servant leadership and how that is driven and backed up by your belief as well, and that how that's actually mapping out in terms of how you mentor others and sponsor others or sponsor mentorship. So yo, that's a lot. But I really want to thank you for coming in as well, for sharing yourself with the community, with the Bravi community who are there. I'm sure there's a lot of things that they are also taking from these conversations, and I'm sure that they will have more questions which you are more than welcome to put in the comment section box below, and we'll try as much as possible to answer them and give you responses. But as Evodia mentioned earlier on, you can find her on Instagram at Evolution. We'll also put it on the screen. You can find her on LinkedIn, Evodia Mohanyane. Where else can people find you? Facebook. You use Facebook.
I have a Facebook, but I'm not active on Facebook. But you can mostly find me on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay. And soon on YouTube.
And soon on YouTube. Look out for that. Very excited about that project.
But thank you so much for coming and watching today's video. If you really enjoyed and learned as much as you can from this video, please make sure that you like, you hit that like button over there. You leave a comment down below if you have any comments or questions as stated earlier on. And I hope you come back with more videos that will be, come back with as we upload more videos here on this channel. And yeah, let me know if you want Evodia back in the future, then we can have more videos and what you would like to get to know from her as well. And we'll be having more of these videos where we'll be interviewing, getting to sit down videos where we get to learn from the people that have shaped my life, and also people that I believe will also add more value in terms of where you need to get to. Because I know that I'm not here because of me. I'm here because of others, and I need to also share my journey, because I was also sitting on the other side of the screen, lost as I was, and I had people like Evodia who came in and shaped my journey. And that's exactly what I wanna do, that we don't hit those roadblocks that Evodia was talking about earlier on, and we become each other's ways platform in this thing called life. But thank you so much, guys. We'll see you guys in another video.
Bye.
Bye.